Hello, everybody, and welcome to An Englishman in San Diego, a cup of tea with. I got that completely wrong way around there. I'm all completely befuddled because it is only 10 days to go to San Diego Comic-Con 2014, 11 days to day one official of the con. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you are watching live, if you are listening to this on the audio version, or if you're watching back on YouTube, thank you very much indeed for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date with all the other posts that we put up on the channel, and certainly for our show, penultimate show, which happens next Sunday, live in San Diego, which we are very, very close to the con this year. Right, it's a very special cup of tea this week because we have...
everybody, and welcome to An Englishman in San Diego.
I think someone's got their YouTube channel up. There you go, someone's watching live as well. Someone's watching with us.
Only 10 days to go.
I'm getting a bit of an echo. Who's watching YouTube?
Day one official of the con. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you are watching live, if you are listening to this on the audio version, or if you're watching back on YouTube, thank you very much indeed for
bear with me. Who's watching? One of our guests. There we go. I think someone's turned it off.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Much less reverb.
Well, yes. We'll start. We'll try again. We'll start again. Yes. Live show where we talk San Diego Comic-Con 2014. We are deep in the weekend where we have the schedules coming out, and we are hopefully going to be covering the Sunday schedules as they come out live during the course of this show. So if you are wanting to finally complete that full lineup of what you're going to be doing at Comic-Con this year, this is the show that's going to be for you. However, it is also going to be a way for you to interact with us here on the Hangouts. If you click on the Q&A button at the top of the video on the Google Plus event page, you can interact, let us know what you're doing with your preparations, and of course, if you want to take part in SDCC surgery. If there are any questions about the panels, the lineups, anything that you want to know about possibly the best time to get into lines, and basically to make sure that your con goes as best as it possibly can, do jump in with that hashtag. We are keeping an eye on that, SDCC surgery. And of course, you can tweet us on CupOT at CupOT SDCC. You can get in contact with us and do let us know what you want to talk about here on the Hangout. However, like I say, it's a very special Hangout today because we have a full roster of guests. We'll very quickly go down the line and let you know who's joining us today. First and foremost, we have ourselves Alyssa from friendsofcci.com. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
Good morning.
Well, yes, it's good. It's good morning for you. It's been an absolutely glorious summer's day for us here in England. So hopefully it's very nice for you too as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Next down the line, we have Christopher Sully from the NerdFu. Hello, Chris.
Hey, everybody.
Good to have you joining us. We have next along the line, we have Jesse Lynn from the Nerd Truth. Hello, Jesse.
Hi, how are you?
Now, Jesse's a little bit of a late attendee when it comes to all the details that we've been putting up on the page, but he wanted to take part in this because he's quite the DC fanboy, so he's very much wanting to take part in this because of the last person I'm going to introduce. We have ourselves Mark Searby, who's joined us. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Now, he's one of my English comrades, so he's had a nice, relaxing Sunday. Hopefully you finally kind of put your feet up from your Sunday lunch. And
I'm still digesting it now, Leonard.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear, because we're all about gravy here in the UK. It's quite strange. We have Megan from the Nerdy Girlie. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, as always. It's got to be said, this is going to take a long time, because we've got a full roster. It's just insane. We have Natasha from the Nerd Element. Hello, Natasha. How are you?
Hello.
It's good to have you here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And someone that I'm going to have to really thank for this is Tina from the Red Dot Diva. Hello, Tina.
Hello.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Once again, a very strange time zone for yourself. It's something like midnight in Singapore. So
yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Monday. It's already Monday.
It's
already
like being on day. It's already 9 days to go to come for you. And I'm definitely wanting to thank you for today, because we have as our very special guest here on the Hangout, Mr. Paul Levitz. Hello there, sir. How are you?
Hi, doing fine.
Excellent. We are going to concentrate on yourself, certainly for the first block of this Hangout, because we want you to kind of get off and enjoy the rest of your day, and we don't want to take up too much of your time. But first and foremost, thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. Right. Very quickly then, if you do want to get in contact with any of our guests, if you do have any questions, if there's anything that you want to put to Paul, do let us know. And of course, we'll keep an eye on the Q&As. We are going to be doing a nice big section on the Q&As a little bit later on, so everyone can have a bit of a voice here on the Hangout. One of the things that I do is, as part of my YouTube channel, is something called Icons of Con. It's where we look at the celebrities, the industry people, and those faces that keep going back to Comic-Con as recognizable elements and ingredients of San Diego Comic-Con. And certainly Paul is one of those. I want to basically go a little bit further back in time, however, because this may be very difficult to believe, but there may be some people out there who don't know who you are. Okay? So, for those people who may not even know what SDCC stands for, because I think they may sit in the same box, Paul, tell us who you are and a little bit of a background on yourself, please.
Sure.
Where do you start?
Well, I mean, the short form version. I started out as a young comic fan with the geographic being born in New York in the years when about 95% of the American comic book industry was in New York. Started one of the early fanzines, probably the first real news fanzine to come out on a regular schedule, offering information about what comics were coming, sort of TV guide-like. In the years when publishers didn't customarily announce that information in advance, also didn't customarily announce who was writing and drawing individual stories in advance. So it was both a very useful thing for fans, it was also a useful thing for the professionals because they could figure out when their work was coming out and when they should go up to the offices and try and get free copies. They didn't automatically get comps in those days. And I started under the name Etc. with a friend named Paul Kupperberg. Then it became a part of the Comic Reader, which was a glorious old name in American fandom that had gone out of business at that time. That got me to know people around the comic book business. I got invited to start freelancing, doing letter columns for DC by Joe Orlando, one of the legendary editors. Started doing that while I was in high school. When I finished high school, Joe's assistant editor was taking the summer off. He asked me if I would fill in. I said, sure. His assistant did not come back. The man is alive. He's well. He's fine. But he went off to do other things. And I never left. So I stayed working as an assistant editor at DC for several years, theoretically working my way through college to get an honest job. Then Jeanette Kahn arrived at DC. Company started to change. Felt like the business was beginning to change. And I said, all right, let me give this a chance. And went full-time, became an editor, eventually shifted to the business side, and under a variety of different titles ran the operations of the company for 3 decades, finishing up as president and publisher for the last 7 or so years that I was on.
I mean, that's something when anyone looks through your resume, I mean, the titles and the tags are just, it's one hell of a list. What's on your passport, just out of curiosity? What is your occupation? What's your occupation on your passport?
I think American passports, we don't have to have occupations.
No? Okay.
When I have to fill it in these days, it tends to be writer/educator because in the years since leaving DC, I now spend about half my time teaching college or graduate school courses, and most of the other half writing, little bits of consulting and different projects here and there.
Wow. I mean, okay, so when you started then, it was as a fan. It was created with those fanzines. So what was the con landscape like when you were writing those fanzines, when you first got started?
Well, the first convention I got to go to was the Suling Con here in New York in '71. I think we had about 3,000 people there, which was the largest a comic convention had ever been in the world. We didn't think it was possible for a convention to get larger.
Excuse us while we all just sort of shake our heads at this point.
I mean, my standing joke in later years was that I think now Warner Brothers brings more people to San Diego than attended that first convention I was at. They certainly bring more people to San Diego than were at the first San Diego I attended, which I think was 1974, 40 years ago.
Oh, wow, so it really was one of the first ones then.
Yeah, I think the attendance there was still probably about 500 or so. A very different kind of event than we're expecting in a few weeks.
Well, yeah. Do you have any favorite memories of those first initial cons? Those.
Well, since this is a San Diego con-related discussion, I think my favorite memory of the first con I went to out there, in those days they were at the El Cortez Hotel, which I don't believe was technically condemned, but was fairly close. And after the convention was over for the day, most of us would just descend down to the pool, which I think was in the basement. And I remember Jack Kirby sitting on one lounge, Sergio sitting on another, and you just sat around bullshitting with the guys. It was an absolutely wonderful experience.
Wow. Well, when it comes to those early cons, I mean, I think a lot, when I speak to industry types and people in the industry, they seemed, certainly in the first early cons, I thought when I was researching it, it sounded like they were very enthusiastic to go to speak to the fans, but it almost seems like there was almost kind of like a guarded atmosphere, certainly with the writers and the artists, because they didn't know what to expect.
Well, I think it's a generational thing. For those of us who started out as comic fans, we were looking to see a bunch of people like us. For the, let's call them first generation professionals, the ones who hadn't been part of comics fandom because it hadn't existed, and particularly the ones who hadn't been part of science fiction fandom, which culturally is very much similar to what our world was. They thought it was completely weird that anyone would care about who they are. You know, one of the joys of San Diego in later years has been the effort the convention has made to bring out some of those first-generation professionals in their later years. And you'd get guys like Kurt Schaffenberger, who was a wonderfully talented artist and contributor to the business for many years, showing up in his old age. It's like, I didn't know anyone knew who I was. I didn't know anyone cared. And of course, at age 80, to discover that your work has been appreciated for 40 or 50 years is a wonderful thrill. But at age 40, when you're busy doing the work, who are these people who seem to care about what I'm doing, and what exactly do they want from me? It was a strange process.
Oh, that's good. I'm just enjoying listening to the stories. Sorry if I may zone out a little bit. I'm enjoying it. When you first started and when you were going as a fan, how old were you when you first started going to cons?
I started the fanzine at age 14 and started going to the New York con at the same, like San Diego, I guess. It was probably about 17 by the time I made it out to that. 16 maybe.
So, I mean, when you were publishing these fanzines, was it every month, every quarterly?
Every month.
Every month. So, I mean, the speed of reportage, as it were, for fans, obviously we're now talking light years ahead nowadays. We're working at the speed of thought with the internet when it comes to communicating with the industry and also news updates. Was it an advantage, would you say, to have that kind of slightly more sedate pace to kind of communicate with the industry?
You know, you live in the times you live in.
Yeah.
When you go back and you look at the fanzines I did, you ask if it was done in the Stone Age. You know, it's before any form of digital pre-press, before any form of desktop publishing. Today, you can do something that looks better than that at 8 years old, with bare minimum of energy.
Yeah.
The advantage, I guess, wasn't so much in the time frame, but in the moat, because had I not been in New York, it would have been impossible to do what I was doing, so there weren't 400 people lining up saying, can you tell me, can you give me this information, can I see this cover, can I be part of your life, what's your home address, what hour can I call you at? So I was able to get a great deal of material and a great deal of cooperation that would be challenging today. You know, there was a very defined hierarchy between what was a comic book professional, what was a fan, and what was just a reader who was interested in the material.
Yeah.
You were a fan because you were active as a fan.
Well, I mean, when you started as a fan, then did you feel that, or did you have any advantage then when you then became part of the industry to kind of know what these people were wanting and that passion and enthusiasm from a fan's perspective, you know, from the other side of the curtain, as it were?
I'd like to think it gave me an advantage.
Yeah. You'd like to think.
I don't think there's any objective way to judge. You know, you play the cards that you've got.
Sure. Something I wanted to talk about, and this is where, unfortunately, I'm going to have to get a bit selfish, unfortunately, so do bear with me, people who are watching, because while we are talking about San Diego Comic-Con, something that we were talking about when we were preparing for this interview was the journeys that you went to cons elsewhere and internationally, because one of the trips that you made pretty much also shaped what comics became in the 1980s when you came over to England, and you met with some pretty talented writers and artists.
Well, comics fandom at that time was a very connected place. I mean, everything that's going on here today, the joys of technology being able to pull people together, we didn't have the tools, but we found our way around it. So a couple of young Brits who were putting out a fanzine called Comic Media had contacted me to ask permission to reprint material from the Comic Reader in their fanzine. I had set up arrangements to send them comics from America that were scarce, or books from America that were scarce, and trade for things like Michael Moorcock editions that weren't being published in the U.S. Similarly, with a fan in Scandinavia, I was in contact with one of the early fans who was a scholar about comics in Germany. We connected with each other and all of that.
Did you go to any of the international cons before you became part of the industry, as it were? Did you go as a fan first as well to the international cons, or was
I'm
that?
not sure there were any before I became a professional.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when the first international conventions were, but the earliest I went to was a con in, I believe, Manchester in 1979, when the World Con was going to be in Brighton the week after, and I made a combination trip to the two events. But that has to be one of the earliest British comic conventions. I don't know.
Is that where you first met Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons and that particular circle?
I didn't meet Alan there. I don't know that Alan was emerging from Northampton at that point. but I stayed with Richard Burton, who was one of the assistant editors on 2000 AD and had been one of the editors on Comics Media. I spent a lot of time with Nick Landau, who's now Titan Books, and Forbidden Planet, who was the other part of the Comic Media team. And I think I met Brian Boland on that trip. Might have met Dave Gibbons on that trip. You know, the exact timing blurs for all of it. Alan, I remember that I hadn't met yet, just because I remember my first encounter with him when he had sent me a letter introducing himself, announcing that he was the best comics writer in England, and he thought I was one of the better ones in the U.S., and if we had to write The Martian Manhunter, I should get in touch with him.
Well, that sounds like Alan Moore.
He's a little modest for the depth of his actual talents, but certainly fair that if he wasn't the best comic writer of our generation, he has a very arguable claim to that title.
When did you know that it was right, or the right time to bring the Brits over to the US? Was it when you were speaking to them kind of by mail, or when you actually met them at those conventions?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. Again, you have to remember the times. You didn't have digital file transfer. You didn't have FedEx. So just getting material from Britain to America was challenging. So that was a major barrier. The publishers were not organized to do things like wire transfers of funds. So it meant that the artist had to be willing to receive a check on an American bank in US dollars, get that cashed at a British bank. God knows what fees would be charged in the process, or how long they would actually have to wait for their money to clear. So the first people who were going to be doing any work for America were going to be people who were very passionate about it. And Brian certainly fit that bill. He was an enormous Green Lantern fan. He had enjoyed American comics growing up. And I think he probably was the first of the crowd to start doing some covers and small bits of work for Jack Harris, who was editing at DC at the time.
Cool. Okay. I'm certain that I could take up a whole chunk of time talking about the British invasion, because it's obviously something that absolutely fascinates me, because it really did determine what comics became in the 80s and the 90s. But let's talk about your contribution as well. Considering that we are celebrating Batman 75, it is a major anniversary, and you edited the Batman title for quite some time. What is your? I mean, what was the take on the character when you first working on it? When you started working on Batman?
Well, when I started editing the Batman books, it was the first time at DC that they had one editor responsible for all of the Batman titles. And, you know, I was a punk kid. I was 21, I think, 20. So I started out by taking every Batman story out of the DC library and rereading it, or reading it for the first time. That was possible in those days because so much less had been created and produced. So I immersed myself in it and did what I think was the first character Bible DC ever did editorially for its writers to work from, and did, I don't remember, it was 3, 4, 5 pages of sort of what the consistent facts were going to be going forward. And my goal was to do a serious Batman, very much influenced particularly by what Denny had written in the early 70s, but also just to pull all the books together so there was one set of facts, one set of character relationships, and to make all of that work.
Cool. We have got a number of questions that are coming in on the Q&A, and we are going to, we have got 1 or 2 people who are tweeting in saying, are you going to let any of the other guests ask questions? Absolutely, we are going to do that. I just wanted to get a nice big bulk of an interview So we'll ask one more question, and then I'll open it up to everyone else. The convention scene certainly has changed, and in 2014 it's just an immense monster of a thing. I think, however, a lot of people do forget that the convention has a purpose, and certainly for the industry, they are bringing products to bear at a convention. Do you feel, or do you get the chance to enjoy as a fan a convention anymore, or is it? Do you feel that there is definitely business to be done, as it were? I can imagine there is that balance that you have to kind of.
Well, it's a lot easier to decide what I'm going to do at a convention now than when I was running DC. When I was running DC, you know, I might have. One year I kept track, and I stopped at about 60 meetings, and I think that was in the first 2 days. It's a much calmer pace now. But given the peculiarity of my life, conventions sort of serve as a perpetual high school reunion for me. You know, God knows nobody knows that many of the people at San Diego, because I believe the entire population of the world shows up for at least 5 minutes.
It certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
God knows. But over the course of a weekend, you know, I'll see people I've known since junior high school. I'll see people who have been close friends, my poker buddies from the 1970s when we were all sitting around. I'll see people from all over the world who travel there, like Tino or Nick Landau, who people I've known for years and am friendly with. I'll meet people who have read my work and been part of my life that way, who have a reaction to it, and that helps provide energy for me. You know, writing when you don't have the applause of the audience is a pretty lonely thing to do, but when you have someone coming up to you and saying, I really love this particular thing that you did, that's a great feeling, and that can be anything from Jonathan Ross showing up and talking to me about Stalker, remembering what I wrote when I was 17 years old.
Well, that guy just gets everywhere anyway, so.
He doesn't. To somebody whose name I never really get, just coming up and remembering something that I wrote that I may not even remember anymore, but that had meaning for their life. And that's all a great feeling. It's kind of exhausting whirlwind, but
I think it's, well, that's the thing. I mean, it's exhausting for us as fans, but I can imagine for industry types and for people like yourself and creatives, it must be. I mean, I speak to a number of artists and writers, and by late Friday, early Saturday, the bees in the head start buzzing particularly loudly. So it does turn into a little bit of a noise. I've got a number of questions on the Q&A, but we'll go through the panel first. We have a number of people who have joined us today, and I'm certain we have some questions. Does anybody have any questions for Paul? Shall we start with Jesse, perhaps? Hello there, Jesse. Jesse is somebody who, on various groups and forums, will slap down Marvel boys and gladly wave the DC banner. So, do you have a question for Paul, Jesse?
I don't really have a question. I do want to say thank you for recruiting Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, who gave us the best Batman story ever written, which is The Killing Joke. Thank you for that.
I didn't assign them the project, but I'll take my share of credit for being patient while it was getting done at a snail's pace.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Jesse. Anybody have any questions for Paul?
I was just wondering what you taught. You said you were teaching at a university, and was wondering what you were teaching these days.
Sort of depends on what I can get away with. I teach a couple of courses labeled as Writing for Media at a little liberal arts college called Manhattanville, which is basically a course in storytelling. intended for both creative writing majors and communications majors. Pace University in New York has a master's in publishing program, and normally one term I teach basically the business of comic and graphic novel publishing, and the other term I teach a course called Transmedia, or the Future of Publishing, which essentially says, you think you're going to get to play with paper your whole life, kids? Let's talk about what your skill set's going to be useful for and how all of these things fit together. And then this fall, I'm back at Columbia University, where I get to co-teach every couple of years a course in the American graphic novel.
That was something I was going to ask, because there's a number of projects that you've been involved in the last couple of years. I mean, certainly you are actually still you are very much writing for DC at the moment. But is there anything that you're going to be bringing to Comic-Con this year that you're particularly wanting to shine a spotlight on?
Not shilling anything this year.
No?
I've been working on a book on Will Eisner, but it's scheduled for next year rather than this.
Now, you see, that's what I was leading on to. I was hoping that you're going to naturally pimp the book. But how's work going on that book?
The first draft sitting on the editor's desk, growing some penicillin. Eventually, it'll get back to me, and I'll start finishing it up.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions for Paul? Mark? Oh, hang on. Was that Tina? Sorry, Tina.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark. Tina put her hand up. Tina.
Yes. Paul, you were recently announced as a board director of Boom Studios. So, Boom Studios, part of that, right? So, most of your friends, and because of your length of industries, are older people who are historians, legends of the comic industry, and I suppose Boom Studios has a younger crowd of editors and publicity folks, and they have a lot of interns as well. So, did you feel that you're more in touch with the younger crowd because it's kind of like the board directors now, and you get into discussions with their production schedules or things like this?
Well, certainly one of the things that's interesting about being connected at Boom is it's making me look at material in the field that I wouldn't naturally be reading myself. And my tastes are pretty old school as a reader. Mark's advocacy aside, I had 30 years of Marvel comics on my shelf, as well as centuries, it felt like, of DC material. But by being connected to something like Boom, I'll notice something like Lumberjanes, which I think is a wonderful, strange piece of work for a very fresh, new, and young audience. So that's very cool. Do I have as much impact on the young people? One of the things about comics that's a really wonderful business is we very much have built on each other's shoulders. And I think much of what I did in my career was only possible because of the generation before me, whether it was Siegel and Schuster or Shelley Mayer or Stan Lee and Roy Thomas. And I suspect if I'm having impact on young people, it's probably on young people who I don't know, who grew up reading something that I wrote, or who came into comics hearing about a project that I helped market, like a Killing Joke, perhaps, or a contract that I helped improve for the business that made it more attractive to a different group of people. And that's, I think, where I'm most likely to have impact on them. I don't know that I have any legendary wisdom to pass down. Padawan, let me tell you the secret of how you will make a comic today.
Well, you see, if that's not going to be coming anytime soon, we might as well just wrap this up now.
I'll go get my lunch.
Excellent. Does anybody have any? Oh yeah, we were going to go to Mark, weren't we? Mark.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions for Paul. Really, the first one was, what was the most entertaining comic or graphic novel that you were involved in, and also what was the one that you thought was going to do well and didn't?
Ooh.
Well, the second one first. I'll give you an answer that's at least half Brit. The original proposal for a book called Electric Warrior in the 1980s by Doug Munch and Jim Bakey was a wonderful proposal, and I was completely convinced that was going to work, and it didn't. On the flip side of it, one of the most important things that was in, I think, my philosophy as an executive at the company was that you had to allow people to follow the projects that they believed in, whether you did or not. And very vividly can conjure the memory of Karen Berger and Heidi McDonald, who was then editing for us, coming in passionately advocating a project called Why the Last Man, which I thought was absolutely a total failure in advance. You know, this was the most basic adolescent male fantasy. It's been done. Who's going to care? He's got a 60-issue plan. I said, this isn't going to make it past issue 12. Let us do this, boss. Okay.
We're all laughing now because it is.
I had a cake made with a picture of a crow on it and invited Heidi in, who had long since left the company, to share in my ceremonial eating the crow. Most of the time, you don't know. Once in a while, something screams out to you that it's so well thought out, it's so beautifully done. You know, as pages came in on Watchmen or on Kingdom Come, the whole office stopped along the way. Wow. But that's a very rare phenomenon where you can see what's going to happen.
I do read a number of stories where it was a case of you were keeping an eye out for pages coming in, not just from the UK, but from all sorts of artists, and the office did just stop, and they just all crowded around. I just love that image where an entire office just stops to see what comes out of this envelope. I find that gorgeous image. Yes, anybody else that has any questions? Do we have a question from Megan, perhaps?
I was just going to ask, because I'm such a comic noob, like, where would be a good place to start with comic books? Like, what would your suggestion be?
There's so many places to start. The wonderful thing about the field now is the diversity of the material. I think the really good comic shop retailers are very good hand sellers. And they're good at having a conversation with you that says, what do you like to read? And if you like a certain kind of fantasy material, then certainly Neil Gaiman's Sandman has been a classic gateway drug into the field. If you like, we don't always give the first one free, but we like to get you started in hooked early. But it depends on what you love reading. What do you love reading, Megan?
I have read a few of the new 52, the Batman, and I really liked that. That one was really good. And the Court of the Owls, I read that whole series, and that one I really liked.
Well, for Batman, I'd look at the stuff that Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale did together, Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Those are very clear, classic stories that aren't very reliant on any particular mythology.
Very striking artwork as well. Very striking artwork.
You know, just go into a good comic shop and start talking to the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Build lots of shelves. You'll need them.
What is your collection like, Paul? Your personal collection?
I stopped counting at about 40,000 comics.
Wow.
Full first 30 years of Marvel, and pretty much everything worthwhile from DC from the beginning of the Silver Age on. A couple of things that go back to the Golden Age.
Does anyone?
Other publishers, but not anything much. It really wasn't room in my life.
Well, I mean, we've got a number of questions from the Q&A, so we'll work through a couple of those. And talking about Batman, we've got a question from Wesley Ruff asking, what does Paul think about the new Batgirl design?
Haven't really looked at it. Saw a two-second look and looked fun, but you know, I'm enjoying not being immersed in everything that goes on now. So I don't have to care.
Well, I mean, I know that you're not particularly wanting to tread on any toes, particularly. I want to keep this a very light conversation, so I won't. I could ask for a one-sentence answer on what your thoughts on New 52 was when that got announced.
Yeah, it's an idea we'd been debating going back to the middle '80s. We were originally going to do something like that after Crisis. We didn't think we could pull it off at the time. And Dan and Jim and the team had the courage to do it now. It certainly seems to have worked commercially. And that's what their goal was.
We've got a question from Carlo Dwyer. Hello, Carlo. Thanks for watching. What is the favourite project that you've had a part in? I think this is certainly more hands-on, perhaps, as a project.
As a writer,
yeah,
getting to write the Legion, particularly the period when I was working with Keith and everything seemed to be working so well, or getting to write the Justice Society, and particularly the work done with Joe Staton. But so many wonderful things that I've gotten to do. You know, I was talking with Steve Ditko about 2 days ago, and we were reminiscing about the work we did on Stalker, and it was just reminding me of how outrageously lucky I had been at 17 to get to work with Ditko and Wood. I continue to be outrageously lucky.
Well, we're very grateful that you do. We've got a question from Pyramid on the Friends of CCI forum. As fans, can we expect to see a dark and brooding atmosphere in the DC movies, or will there be movies in a lighter tone? I'm wondering if that's something that you can actually answer, because.
My joy in life is I get to go to DC movies without having read the script or knowing what's in them.
Yeah.
The Man of Steel was the first Superman movie I've ever been to that I hadn't read in advance or been on the set of. And I have no more idea than you do, and probably less what the next DC movies will be.
Well, are you as interested in the movies panels at Comic-Con as we are, or is it something that you kind of, it's more the comics that you focus on?
I don't have the strength to go to Hall H.
Well, neither do we, but we do it anyway.
God bless you. You know, I enjoy going to the movies that are made these days of the characters, because they're able to do some amazing things. I had a delightful time with my youngest son, who's one of my kids who enjoys comics, at Days of Future Past a couple months ago, I guess. When that hit, I look forward to seeing what comes next from all of these things. But I don't really feel the need to get the latest information on what may be happening or who may be cast. Having had the fun of being on the inside, I don't need to almost be on the inside. I'm happy to sit and wait for my tickets for the second weekend it comes out.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's a question that has come in from the Q&As. I can't quite see it here, so I'm going to have to apologise for not having a name for this question. But it was about the difference between conventions Now, what would you say is the biggest difference between conventions now and conventions past, would you say? What is the biggest difference that you can think of? Short of, beyond the scale of the things.
Yeah, I mean, the scale drives everything. You know, the first, I'd say, 5 years of comic conventions I went to, I couldn't walk 10 feet without knowing someone. Who the hell are these people?
How good are you with names?
Fairly horrible. But face is a little bit better, a little bit. But it's just.
So you have the
whole scale makes it unimaginable. The amount of access, the idea of the movie talent being there, the diversity of what's going on in it, the gender mix, the racial mix, the international mix. It's all way beyond anything we would have dreamed in the years we were working on it. You know, I've done pretty much every part of running a convention. I built the programming for the one convention in DC. It itself in the 70s. I ran the dealer's room for the first couple of creation conventions. I did the program books for both the New York cons and the earliest version of a Marvel con. We never envisioned anything like this. It's somewhere between a dream, a nightmare, and the biggest dose of steroids anybody could ever handle.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question. Do we have any more questions from our panel at all? Anyone that wants to expand on? Oh, we have a question from Chris.
I've got one. I'm a movie fan first, and I just dabble in comics. But with the vast library that DC has and that you've been involved with, what character and or storylines would you like to see made into a film?
Good question.
There's so many. You know, it's really a question of what director and what writer come together with a vision for the thing. It's not, the character's important, but unless it makes sense to that director, there's no point.
Sure. Well, I mean, with Guardians of the Galaxy as a series of, or a team that are certainly not expected to hit the screens and now becoming a major tentpole movie. You never know, we may see a Legion of Superheroes film.
I wouldn't bet on it, but I'll go see it if it comes out.
I think I'd love to. Well, I think it's just a case of which era of Legion you would go to. It's quite a hell of a history. But excellent. Right. So yeah, the one question I wanted to ask is certainly in regards to the relationship between DC Comics and San Diego Comic-Con, because the convention scene has just changed so much. But obviously, there is that interaction with fans, and it is a very important element of going to cons. How important is Comic-Con to DC? Is it something that that little red dot that kind of like dominates the corkboard, or is it? Or what?
You know, I can't speak for the present team. I can only speak for during my time. But from my point of view, any place where 150,000 of your customers are likely to be, you should go and buy them lunch.
Very good answer.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to talk to your customers and to find out what they think as a business person. You know, companies spend enormous amounts of money on market research to get much less information than you can get in 5 minutes of just sitting and listening to people at a comic convention.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I know that we've taken a little bit longer than we expected, and thank you very much indeed for not.
My pleasure. Have fun.
Fantastic. Will we be seeing you at Con? Which panels are you looking forward to this year? Which ones are you going to?
I'm on a panel about Jules Feiffer's new graphic novel, which is an amazing piece of work to be done. It's his first noir effort at age 83, 84. And then we're doing a panel on Will Eisner as a teacher with some of his students, including Baton Lash and Jim Friedman and Joe Quesada, Mike Carlin. So that should be a great deal of fun. And I think those maybe. Oh, and I'm on a fifth comic book legal defense fund panel about the Comics Code. And I think as of now, those are the only 3 panels I'm scheduled for, but these things have a way of growing like Topsy.
Well, even with 10, yeah, I can imagine with 10 days to go, there's still time for your calendar to fill up rather nicely. So.
Yep.
You have to be on the Batman 75. It will be disappointing if you're not.
If they ask me, I'll be there. We'll see.
Excellent. Paul, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's been
have a great convention, guys, and hopefully I'll see some of you there.
Everyone, Paul Levitz.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and he's out. He's gone. Yeah. Like I say, we've got a nice block of time with him there. That was fantastic. I got a little bit distracted a good 10 minutes or 5 minutes into the conversation when one of the first comments that came up in the Q&A, Sunday is live. Yep. Sunday is live.
Whoa.
So we have been kind of organising this hangout. Ages, right? Good grief. That we were going to have 1 or 2 people step away, or while Paul was talking, while we were having that interview, that people were going to have a look at the Sunday schedule. So hopefully they've had the chance to very quickly do that. But let's go through, because of course we've had some amazing days of scheduling come through. We're not going to go through them, literally tear them apart. I don't think this would. I mean, there's been enough of that over the last couple of days. We may just do that with the Sunday really quickly for a reaction. But first and foremost, let's just go through our panels, our guests here, and ask your reactions to the schedules. We'll start with Natasha. No, now Natasha, what is your focus when it comes to panel lineups? What do you look for?
Well, there are several TV shows that I would love to go to. I'm kind of like a little bit of everything. Like, I happen to notice that there's a 25th anniversary Gargoyles panel on Saturday, and I loved that show as a kid. I loved that show as a kid. Like, I'm already conflicted. So I'm already conflicted between Ballroom 20, Hall H, and the panel that's like at 5 o'clock.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What show was that?
Gargoyles.
No.
Disney cartoon that came on in the 90s. I loved that show.
I'm looking at the face of Mark Searby, and he's throwing the same kind of bemused look at this point. What on earth is Gargoyles?
It was part of the Disney afternoon.
Yes! Oh my gosh! How can you not know that?
The tapes never made it over to the UK. We don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Definitely look it up. I don't know if it's on Netflix at all, but definitely try and look it up and just watch it. It was just an awesome cartoon.
Well, we had Danger Mouse, so we win.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, is it the smaller panels that have attracted your attention, or is it any of the big headliners?
Well, yeah, like I said, the TV panels are definitely a draw. Like each of the years that I've been going since 2012. Like Teen Wolf is on Thursday. I've been going to that panel since I started going. That's going to be in Ballroom 20, and they were initially, if I recall correctly, in Room 6 BCF the first year I went, and then they moved up to Ballroom 20 last year. So I am happy for that. There is Legend of Korra, that's usually on Fridays, early in the morning. And I was there. It was the Firefly anniversary panel, 2012. And the poor Korra fans could not get in because of Firefly.
Oh,
I felt really bad. Even though I love the show, I just really felt bad for them.
I have a good friend. I mean, there's a good friend of all of us called Donna Gardner.
Yeah. Yes.
She is hardcore Cora, and she was in the first 5 or 10 in full regalia. And when she just, I felt for her so badly on that particular day because she had to kind of jump the extra mile just to get her Cora fix. It was a tough call. Megan, is there anything that's jumped out at you? I mean, what have you had a look at so far?
Well, when we got the announcement that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be at Comic-Con, that was like our huge news for Thursday. And then when we heard he was going to be there Saturday too, we're kind of hoping, fingers crossed, like last year, that maybe he'll want to pop in at our Sherlock party. So that was our huge news, is Benedict going to actually be at Comic-Con this year. So I'm super excited about that.
I was desperately hoping that you weren't going to mention that because then you would just have so many people crowding around that party in the desperate hope to see Cumberbridges. It would just be insane.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah, your security may have to get ramped up a touch.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean I think that was the big news that dropped. But then it just turned into a whole host of speculation. I mean, like I say, the first thing that got announced was that he was showing up for the DreamWorks, The Penguins of Madagascar.
Yeah, I'm like, why would he ever come for that movie? He has to be coming for something better than that movie. He didn't even come for Sherlock.
At which point, every DreamWorks fan's going, "What do you mean better than Penguins?" Rephrase that. That's mean. But yeah, I think it was safe to say he wasn't just going to show up for that. So yeah, obviously I think that the Hobbit panel is the one that has attracted a lot of attention as well. Anyone else want to jump in with what they may have spotted? Certainly of the last. From Thursday to Saturday. We'll cover Sunday in a bit. Anything that's kind of jumped out at anyone?
I'll jump in. I was really excited to hear about the Goonies panel, which is it's in the Indigo Ballroom. It's not even in Ballroom 20 or Hall H, and it sounds like they're going to get a bunch of the cast members back together.
Well, they're also going to be talking about this sequel as well, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, that seems to be the premise for the whole thing, is to talk about the sequel. But chances are Brolin will be there for Avengers, and then Sean Astin's going to be there for something else. So you're already starting to build some of the big names. Why not? It'd be cool if they could bring them all back together.
That room is going to be particularly busy. I mean, we've had one or two people turn around and saying, what kind of times are we looking at to kind of get into that room? I'm trying to remember what that room is like leading up to the Goonies panel.
I'm looking at it right now. Just before that is The Hobbit, an unofficial look. And then before that is R.R. Martin is going to be there to discuss In the House of the Worm. So you already got a big bunch of fandoms there, and then this added on top of it. That's going to be a crazy, crazy area that day.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of switch around, though? Because I don't think there's a lot of cross...
I don't know, but I mean, going back to like we were just talking about with Firefly and Legend of Korra, if you really want to be there for Goonies, you're going to get there early and you're going to sit there all day regardless of if you're a fan. So
this is true. I've opened up the camera now, so everyone can literally just jump in by all means. I don't want it was very much my voice for the first 20-30 minutes. Now it's everyone else. Come on. Everyone else can jump in on this.
There was something that surprised us was the chair panel where Zachary Quinto was supposed to be involved in, and it's at the Marriott on Friday, 1:30, 2:30 at their Hall 1 and 2. And I think it's part of the CCI filming section of that weekend. So Zach has not come back to San Diego for like 3 years, and we were wondering whether he might ever come back again. So this was a surprise. And not just the chair, but then after that he was announced for Agent 47 as well, for Fox panel on the same day, I think in LA.
I haven't heard about that one yet, so that's interesting.
It's under the 20th Century Fox slot, together with Kingsman, Secret Service, something like this. So that's really interesting because all the Zachary Quinto fans are like squealing their heads off, and similar to the Benedict Cumberbatch fans.
Has there been any other surprises, would you say? Because certainly for like room allocations, like you say, Goonies in that room seems a bit weird. I mean, we've got Janine, a very good friend of the Hangout. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Janine Lecaro. Surprised to see The Strain in Hall H since it starts tonight. I'm guessing that's a Sunday panel?
Yeah, it's a Sunday panel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's right after the following, if I'm not. If I
It's right
recall
after
correctly.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
No.
two hours.
I've only ever, the only thing I know about The Strain is the promo image they've done with the fish hook through the eyeball, which just makes me cringe just thinking about it. Would you say that's
It was a worm, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, gee, well, that just makes it so much better, Jesse. Thank you. Good grief.
Yeah, Sean Astin is actually going to be on that show. I didn't even realize he was going to be on that show.
That's what he's there for.
Cool. Any other surprises?
I'm
Oh, go on. Go with Jesse. Go on, Jesse.
I'm surprised that it took American Horror Story 3 years to actually come to Comic-Con finally, because they have a panel this year. And I'm also surprised that the Hunger Games isn't coming, because I haven't seen anything for that anywhere. No, it's not even in Hall H. So.
It's interesting. Some of the different companies, they have a slot allocated, but they haven't explained what they're bringing. Like I know 20th Century Fox, or no, Paramount, just has a block of time, but they haven't said what they're bringing. So maybe Hunger Games is part of it.
Fox, let me pull this up.
Yeah, I think one of it's the Maze Runner.
Okay, 20th Century Fox, Agent 47, The Book of Life, which is the animated one, Maze Runner. What else? Let's Be Cops.
Oh, that's
I've seen the trailer for that, and okay, I'm going to admit that I did actually laugh.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies.
But not certainly some of the ones that we were expecting, because I think that's the thing that certainly when the Saturday schedule dropped, Friday schedule, everyone was kind of talking about Thursday and Friday as being particularly light and being not very strong this year. But I think there is a lot of those to be announced that are kind of like buried in the schedule, which there are films that are in there which just, it depends on what the schedule ends up looking like.
One of those, which is really quite odd, one of my forum members pointed this out first thing this morning. We've been talking about the movie Snowpiercer, and apparently in Hall H at 3 o'clock, I think on Friday, there's the Daniel Radcliffe panel, the Radius panel. Mm-hmm. But if you look in the playback panels that are happening over at the Omni, they mention Snowpiercer as in that. Yeah, so like sneaky. They're being sneaky.
Yeah, you may want to be looking at those playback panels, seeing what's looking like.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, just I think that there's and usually what I found is that it probably is that the companies are just not being very clear with CCI about what they're going to show. They're just going to show up and they're going to have what they have, and they'll put it out there, and CCI is going to be as with us in not knowing what's going to happen, but sure that it's going to be a good show. And so,
sure.
The other panel that I thought was going to be is a lot of people are talking about is the NASA panel on Thursday in 6A with Buzz Aldrin. That's I've got a bunch of people who are talking about camping out for that one.
That panel is getting so much momentum. It's just unreal. It really is. When people were talking about it being a really kind of light day, I just looked at 3 o'clock on Thursday, first day first day, and automatically I've got a car crash of 3 panels that I want to go and see. It's just typical. It's just absolutely typical.
Yeah. There's like a literary panel that's featuring Patrick Rothfuss and several other authors, and I read Patrick Rothfuss's Patrick Rothfuss's books, and I'm like, he's gonna be there. He's at the same time, I think, as Teen Wolf. I'm like, are you serious?
What, has there been any other kind of conflicts that have already kind of really put some headaches in people's schedules?
Well, I know Friday. I'm kind of conflicted with Friday just because Falling Skies is like around the same time as like the originals and Arrow, and then Sleepy Hollow apparently is around the same time as Orphan Black, and I know a lot of people like Orphan Black, Kim, and so I know we both watched Sleepy Hollow too, but Sleepy Hollow is going to be in the same room as Falling Skies, and I don't know when Falling Skies is going to do their signing. I may be trying to go for their signing as well, so I'm conflicted.
I've got one on Saturday which conflicts. Obviously, the last True Blood panel, and then at the same time, the premiere of Constantine, and then at the same time, an hour with John Barrowman.
Yep.
I mean, you can't choose. You cannot choose out of those 3. It's impossible.
Yeah. I'd like to thank John Barrowman as well, because he did turn around and say in a radio interview that he would be coming in purely for the
Arrow panel.
The Arrow panel, and that would be it. He'd be coming in for that and then leaving again because he's shooting for season 2. Season 2. Is it 3? Sorry, I don't watch it.
What? You need to remedy that.
I just knew that. I knew that Natasha and Jesse would jump on me on that one. Anyway, he's saying that he's going to have that panel throughout the course of the day, which then also can also imply that he was also lying about leaving straight away, and that he may stick around and do Nerdist. So who knows?
Well,
that would be nice.
To that as well, actually. Last year, when he had an hour with John Barrowman, 2 hours before that, he was in the sports bar down below the Indigo. He was in there having lunch with his sister and his husband.
Okay, so that's a nice little tip for anyone watching. If you want to go and stalk John Barrowman, there's where that's his favourite eating spot. There you go. That's
everyone just started like writing that down in their notes to be lingering in the Hilton Bayfront.
If we start getting tweets around that time saying, I was having a perfectly good meal and these people came out of nowhere, thank you very much indeed. We're going to just point Mark in his direction.
I don't know what to say.
That's the guy you need to have a word with. What else was there? We've got a couple of questions. I mean, when it comes to kind of conflicts like that, I mean, we've got a question here from Fernando Borrego. Very good question. How much do you think the playback room in the Omni will reduce lines for Ballroom 20 and Hall H? The thing is that there's so much energy and enthusiasm that comes from being in the room, but at the end of the day, you can't see everything, so it's got to help somehow. Certainly for those panels. I mean, if it's looking like on 2 of the days, certainly Friday and Saturday, you're going to be having to queue very early for the whole day, as it were. So I mean, it certainly help with just getting to see the content.
I'm hoping that I haven't mapped out my schedule yet, so I don't know. I don't understand, where I'm going to go, what conflicts I'm going to have yet. But to my mind, having the Omni is great because I'm not one that's going to camp out. I pretty much decided I'm not going to do the Hall H on Saturday thing, and it'd be nice to be able to see if there is that Snowpiercer thing, or the one panel that I'm interested in seeing, and that would be lovely. So I'm really appreciative and glad that they did this. Hopefully I can get into the playback panel now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just finding it Well, I mean, it's kind of getting one step closer to what people are actually wanting, which is live streaming. And it's showing that there's the ability that they are recording the footage, but I just don't think they want to risk upsetting the studios by accidentally releasing footage or an image up on the screens that they just don't. I think they just don't want to get their wrist slapped at the end of the day, and I think it's more a case of protecting themselves. But it is getting one step closer to having that live streaming element, I think. Let's have a look. Gender. Yes, we were going to have somebody else join us on the Hangout, which is we were going to have Violet from Gender Bias Reviews. Cross lines. I'm stunned that we got everybody that we did into the Hangout, frankly. So if we had one person drop out, it's unfortunate. Turning around saying they've had the playback room for years and it doesn't seem to help at all. I know that this is the first year that they're really kind of pushing it as an option. They really are. They've certainly made a thing of it on the Talkin blog because they've been attaching elements to the Talkin blogs as well as the schedules. So, for example, the theatre panels. I can't remember the name of the theatre. Is it the Horton?
Horton Grand.
Horton Grand. Which hopefully someone's had a look at that because I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I was actually about to bring it up. I just read the page on that.
Excellent. So as well as the Talkin blogs where they've released the daily schedule, they've also released bits and pieces about additional elements. And the playback room is something they've definitely wanted to try and put a showcase on this year.
But you're talking about the showcase room, though, Leonard. The problem is they don't show the actual videos in there.
No.
So when they're talking about something, and as Alyssa was saying, if they're showing Snowpiercer, which you need to see the footage for them to understand how beautiful it looks, what's the point in going there and then talking about how visually amazing it is, and you can't see it? It does seem a little bit of a waste of time going if they're not going to show these clips.
Yeah, it's silly.
I mean, not only that, but at the end, it is in a closed room. It's not getting released out to the wider world. You would kind of hope that they would include the footage because it's not. They can put the same amount of security in that room, and if anything, it's focused. It's in that room, and it's at least they're not having people point their camera phones at a screen, which is what effectively they're going to be. It's going to be a screen of a screen. It's just going to be. How pointless is that? So yeah, okay. Good point. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
As far as the Horton Grand Hotel, do you want me to talk about that real quick?
Go for it.
Yeah, that's a new off-site venue this year. It's only a couple blocks from the convention center, and the way I read it, it's a small venue. I didn't get a number of seats, but there's a select number of panels each day. It looks like 2 or 3 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And in order to go, you have to go get a ticket first. And then it's part of the shuttle line, or you can walk over, but you can't get in without a ticket and your badge. Most of the panels, to me, weren't of interest, but there is one on Saturday at noon called Hercules All-Stars. And they're going to have Lou Ferrigno and a couple other guys who played Hercules, as well as a special guest who's going to remote in. And that happens to be the same weekend that the new Hercules with The Rock comes out.
Very good point.
So who knows? That may be. I mean, it would be even cooler if he would show up in person. Imagine if you're one of 150 or 300 people that got to see him in person. But.
I'm trying to work out from what I've read what the actual focus is, because when they did this theatre-based off-site before, it did seem very focused on the comics industry and a slightly drier element of the comic industry, ones that you really have to be a bloody hardcore comics fan to kind of get any kind of. It's certainly not a fun series of panels, or it wasn't when they did this last year. I think they're trying to do something with that and line it up and have something a little bit more. I mean, they're doing a Nerdist panel in there where it's all the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, to throw a wrench in your theory, though, on Friday night at 6:15, it's Adventure Time, a totally algebraic dramatic reading.
Oh, they're going in. Okay, let's go in entirely. Let's go in entirely the opposite direction now. Good lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some literary panels in that too that you would have to get a ticket for. And they also are going to do Outlander. In fact, Outlander is going to have a few panels, not just in the Horton Grand Theater.
Well, I mean, I'm noticing Outlander across the board. They're really pushing that show. It's yeah. I mean, I've not read the books, and the only knowledge I know of Outlander is the film that came out, and it didn't exactly kind of light anybody's fire, quite frankly. So I'm stunned at the push that they're doing to this. So very, very strange. Okay, let's see if we've got any other questions here. Oh, we've got Wesley saying again, honestly, if the studios can show 6,000 people and nothing leaks online from Hall H, they can do the same for panel playback. Absolutely right.
2 words, Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, well, we're trying not to, I was going to say we're trying not to talk about that, but at the end of the day, it is the elephant in the room. It is the elephant in the room. Yeah, I mean, I think that whole situation, it's almost given the studio's license to demand shutting down of playbacks and what they're showing. I think that it's, very, very strange. Carlo's turning around and saying Nerdist is at the Balboa Theatre. Yes, it is. This is talking about 2 separate events here. Nerdist Live, which is where they're going to record the podcast for this year. There's 2 shows. They're going to be early evening and late evening at the Balboa Theatre. You're absolutely right. But this is the podcasts on the Nerdist channel. They're having kind of like a large mashup of all the podcasts. So I am going to be I am a Nerdist fan, but I only listen to the Nerdist podcast. So I'm trying to work out what the other podcasts are.
That other panel that you're talking about is Saturday at 1:30, and it's just called Nerdist Podcast Network Super Panel.
Yeah.
I didn't see who the others involved with it were. But...
So you may have met Matt Myra there for James Bonding. You Made It Weird, them guys. So it's all the whether Chris is going to show up is a whole other ballgame, because quite frankly, on Saturday afternoon, you'd expect him to be a little bit busier somewhere else. Like
Hall H, yeah.
That's his house, man. That's his house. Simple as.
That Nerdist Podcast panel at Grand Horton runs at the same time as the Box Trolls in Hall H, which I didn't see his name tied to that, so it's possible.
Okay, well, he can jump on a Segway and get his backside down to Hall H and backwards and forwards.
He's fit. He can run.
Well, yeah. Now he's lost weight, he can do some sprinting. It's fantastic. That was me. I'm sorry. Let's do. Going back to someone is stunned that there's no Hunger Games. I think, however, they're going to do very similar to the Hobbit, in that they're going to concentrate their efforts on the second film of the 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think it does make sense and it doesn't. So there is no present. I can imagine on the exhibition floor, perhaps on the panel, or on the stand, there will be, but no, I think I understand why there isn't going to be any panel presence. Is there anything that jumps out at you, Megan? We haven't heard your dulcet tones for a while.
Well, I'm really excited for Thursday. Thursday was my biggest and busiest day before I even knew that Benedict was going to be there. I wanted to be in Ballroom 20 all day with Rain, Community, and Hannibal. So I was just going to camp out in Ballroom 20 all day on Thursday. That's like my only day for panels. That was the only day that I really cared about, was Thursday.
Okay.
So I'm really excited for all those things.
And of course, Community.
Well,
yeah,
yes.
Community was like the main one that I wanted to see, because 1, we didn't think that they were going to be back, and 2, I didn't even think that they would have a panel, because they just announced that they are back. So that was a nice surprise. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, I mean, people were wondering whether Community should actually be in Hall H, perhaps, instead of Ballroom 20. But I think it's while there are very passionate fans for Community, I think it's less popular than the fans think it is. I mean, it is good. I mean, the panel is always just an amazing draw, and it's going to be packed, yes. But I don't think it's a Hall H panel. I don't think it's that big. But remember, this is a show that got cancelled three times. It has the numbers, but it has the rabid fandom, but it doesn't perhaps have the numbers. So
Yeah.
But no, that is going to be a big win as that.
I was a little excited about Penny Dreadful because I finally saw the finale. I'm like, I love that show, and it's right after Hannibal, so it's like Teen Wolf, then Hannibal, then Penny Dreadful. I don't really watch Hannibal, but yeah, it is what it is.
The bloodlust. The people who like to see the red. That's that.
Yeah.
Back-to-back panels. I mean, while Hannibal is particularly kind of nitty and gritty in places, Penny Dreadful is a whole other ball game. That is.
I don't know why I watched Penny Dreadful and not Hannibal, but I like it better.
That show, man. That show. It's the closest thing I've seen to a Sisters of Mercy Cure album cover writ large on a television screen. It's just so grim and nasty, and I love it. It's gorgeous. It's just a shame that Eva Green isn't going to be showing up for that.
Ultimately,
yeah. But then again, it's just a shame that Eva Green isn't showing up for anything, because it's Eva Green. She's lovely. So yeah. We've got a question completely unrelated to panels from Janine. Mark, is that a Hannibal shirt you are wearing?
Yes, it is.
Let's see it. Stand up. Let's see, or let's put it in the camera. Let's see it, because this is where it's a nice little bonus for people. No, you're gonna have to stand up, dude.
Can you see that?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice.
That's that creature, right? That I've
Nice.
seen.
Stag Man.
Stuff. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, if you are listening to this on the audio version, tough. That's a really nice. That's a really nice. That's a really nice T-shirt. That's
you can purchase it on eBay.
And other auction sites are available.
Of course.
I have one similar to that, only it has his face on it, not a silhouette.
I'm going to wear it, you wear yours, and if we see each other in the street, we'll just hug or something.
I will be wearing. You got a deal.
It's Jesse. He'll be hugging anybody. Yeah, he's a hugger.
That'll be a bronze.
I will be.
Did you see
I
Brian
will be
Fuller's,
wearing that on Thursday.
Did you see Brian Fuller's Funko that he actually did?
What was that, Tina?
Did you guys see Brian Fuller's Funko that he did a special one for giveaways for Hannibal fans?
No, I didn't see that. No, I'm gonna have to drag that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that. Carlo is just basically our resource. I love Carlo because he just comes up with all sorts of facts. Community last year in Hall H wasn't really filled. It just didn't. It's one of those which just doesn't have the numbers. It's a shame. There we go. Okay. Is there anything else from the Thursday till Saturday that has jumped out at anybody?
I've got a couple of things.
Go for it.
Let me get the piece of paper, otherwise I will forget. On the Thursday, in room 7AB, which I've never been in, is WWE Studios and Lionsgate. Now they're showing Leprechaun and See No Evil 2. Now I know that WWE horror films are not great, but See No Evil 2 is being directed by the Soska sisters. Now if you've never seen American Mary and you do like horror, I would highly recommend seeing American Mary, because these two women are going places. These are fantastic directors. So I'm really excited to see this film, and I'm really interested to see what they've got to say.
I find with WWE, they take on those projects which people just seem to think, they look at the piece of paper with the pitch on it on the A4 and just go, well, there's no way in hell I'm making that. Are you kidding me? And then WWE look at it and they find something in there, and I'm fascinated by what they choose. So yeah, I've heard good things about. Certainly, See No Evil. I'm hearing a lot of good rumblings about that film. So good catch, excellent stuff. Someone else tried talking before Mark jumped in. Who else was there?
Oh yeah, it was me. Like, I was a little happy that Grimm, they were in room 6 BCF the last few years, and now they're finally in ballroom 20. In fact, they're like a few panels before True Blood. So I thought that was interesting. I may be in ballroom 20 on Saturday.
I mean, a lot of people have been looking at the schedule for Saturday, and it's going to turn out a little bit like DC versus Marvel. It's going to be it's kind of like, it's either ballroom 20 or Hall H. Some war.
Pretty much. Yeah, that is definitely going to be a war. Who's going to win?
It's well, I mean, it's one of those where both days, both panels, you start from panel number 1 and you work all the way through, and you pretty much are in there for the long haul. Very much so. Let's see if there's any other comments, because we are getting a number of comments about Sunday, so we will go to that very quickly.
There was one quick one that probably not that many people are going to be interested in, but there's a panel. I think it's on Saturday. It's about the mythical or not mythical geek bubble, and they've got the guy. He did. They're looking at the statistics for how fast these cons are growing, how fast tickets have sold. I believe there's one article I saw that said that comic book conventions are the biggest growing entertainment venue out there by 25% per year kind of thing. This was based on one of the ticketing agencies. So there's a panel on that Saturday afternoon, which I think I'm going to go to. Yeah, I know.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a little kind of hall of mirrors where we're talking about, if you know what I mean. It's right. A little bit, but it's interesting because it is directly mirroring the growth of pop culture. That's a good catch. Good catch. I mean, has anyone kind of been interested in the fact that no Big Bang Theory panel this year?
Well, there's a writers panel, but it's not.
If there's one group of, or if there's one show that has kind of like typified the whole explosion of geek culture and sort of like you say, the geek bubble, right. The Big Bang Theory. I just think with the Big Bang Theory that the cast have twigged, or the cast have worked out that we know as fans that they don't like us very much. I honestly think, I mean, if you've ever attended any of the Big Bang Theory panels, they just sit up there and make in-jokes amongst themselves and pretty much rip into the 2,500, 3,000 people that have come to see them. So you just think, I think they've worked it out. I think they did. So yeah, that writers panel has always been an entertaining panel, though. I've heard. So that'd be interesting.
On Friday, room 25 at 8 p.m., which is really late. There is a new show called Space Command. I'm not sure which channel it's going to be on, but it's a new franchise by people of Sliders. And starring people like Robert Picardo, Bill Murray, Doug Jones, and Mira Furlan. So, hardcore sci-fi fans might like to drop by that room 25.
Okay. I think what we're doing is picking out those gems that we are going to be kind of like looking for. So, okay, does anybody else have one of those hidden kind of like diamonds in the rough, perhaps?
In room 7AB, actually, good friend Jimmy kind of told me about this. There's a panel called Intruders that's going to be a new show on BBC America, and the premise just seems a little interesting for me. it's like a secret society devoted to chasing immortality by seeking refuge in the bodies of others. So like invading people's bodies.
I think that sounds cool.
What room is that again?
It's in room 7AB. On Friday at 8.
Ooh, that's late.
I like that.
Yeah, I think
It's a late panel, but yeah, it just seems
there's a number of late panels this year. I've noticed that they really are pushing the turn with trying to fit in as much content as they can. I've noticed. I think the gem for me is like I say, it's the car crash, the three-way car crash on Thursday at 3. I mean, I really wouldn't mind going in to see the Paramount panel. Because if there is the hope that Christopher Nolan is going to show up with Interstellar, like I have said, if I hear that Christopher Nolan is in the city, I will be there. Fine. Everything I'm about to say becomes moot, but that's the point. If, however, he doesn't show up, there's a panel in Indigo at 3 o'clock, which is it's about. It's called The Musical Anatomy of a Superhero, and it basically has a number of the finest composers currently working in Hollywood.
I did hear that one, yeah.
Man. Tyler Bates, who did the music for Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got it's just Christoph Beck, who did Buffy and Frozen. And Graham Revell, Brian Tyler, who is hands down my favourite composer at the moment. I mean, he even made Now You See Me a watchable film. Because, is it Now You See Me? Yeah, Now You See Me. Now You See Me is one of those films you can kind of give or take, but you can't ignore the soundtrack. That is just... It's like a special effect on its own. So no, if Christopher Nolan doesn't show up, I'm going to be in Indigo at 3 o'clock for that. And then once that's done, I'm going to scootle across to Hall H to see Visionaries.
There's one panel that's going to be on Thursday in room 2. It's How to Draw with Adam Hughes, and that one looks like it'll be pretty good to attend.
On Saturday at 12:30 in room 5AB, it's the Sailor Moon official panel because they're releasing the series on Blu-ray, and so they're just gonna have like some kind of presentation, talk about the series, and Q&A.
Cool. Just had a comment from Dan Berry regarding about that musical architect panel. No Danny Elfman, no Sale. Fair enough. Okay. No. Oh, yeah. All right.
The Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a big guy. He's probably busy at this point. He's probably at this point composing trailer music for something that might be shown on Saturday. So who knows? He says, throwing out Batman versus Superman. Anyway. I thought Jesse would pick up on that. Sorry, come on, dude.
No, we can only hope, man.
We'll see something.
Oh no, but the rumors have been coming left, right, and centre. I mean, was it today where they were talking about we will be seeing Wonder Woman? I mean, man, it's just we're in full-blown speculation mode at this point. Speaking of, well, not speculation, is anyone interested in seeing Daniel Radcliffe at Comic-Con? Oh,
I would love to see him.
Did someone just breathe? Someone just almost fainted then. I heard that.
That must have been Megan. Yep.
That was either Megan or Tina.
I totally forgot about him. Yes, I would love to see him. You know I love to see him.
Yeah, he's coming for something else. I can't remember.
It's a book. It's like his movie.
Yeah. Joe Hill's book called Hans.
Yeah, which is picking up real big, serious, critical buzz at the moment. I haven't seen it, but it seems to have been doing really well around Europe. So I'm interested to see it.
I perused some of the reviews. They were kind of like in the middle ground. So I wasn't sure whether the movie is like, really good. But
Well, last
they-
year I saw him in Grand Piano, and that was fantastic. I really think he's got this kind of horror, psychological thriller vibe going really well. So I'm hoping Horns is fantastic.
Hmm.
that'd be
I've been
interesting.
watching him in the Young Doctor's Notebook on Netflix. Him and John Hamm are in it, and it's really a really good show. He's a good actor. He's really good.
He's certainly matured into himself. I mean, I watched the first Harry Potter film, and I almost swore that I would never go back because I actually thought as actors, I thought they were appalling. I thought they really.
Well, they were babies then at the beginning.
I know. Listen, I want to find out who the casting director for the first Harry Potter film was, because either they are a time traveler, they've come from the future, and they bloody use. Because in that case, we need to be tracking what shares and what stocks they're buying. Because they spotted something. I mean, in all three of them. What's his name? There's a number of the other lads from the not the central trio from Harry Potter.
Tom Felton,
That's the one.
Yeah, he's in a show now called Murder in the First.
Yeah, Murder in the First.
That's the one. When he is stood with the other guys from Harry Potter, and he happens to be one of the best-looking lads in that lineup, and you're just thinking to yourself, okay, where the hell did that come from? I'm sorry.
Are you talking about Neville?
Yeah.
What?
You've seen that meme. You've seen that meme where it just goes, when Neville is the most attractive one of the bunch, you just double take. Very, very, very strange. But no, the fact that Daniel Radcliffe is being rolled out for this film, and he's coming to Comic-Con, I think it says a lot about the film and about the push for it. I think that's very much. That's cool. Thank you very much indeed for that comment, Janine. Tell you what then, I think we've skirted around it long enough. Let's go to Sunday then. Who has been looking at the Sunday panels?
I've been looking at Hall H.
Okay, well, shall we start with you then? Because there has been, there was a post on the San Diego unofficial Comic-Con unofficial blog, which pretty much nailed down what was in Hall H anyway. But that was just pulling out the tidbits from various social medias and various posts. So we kind of knew what was going to be in Hall H already. Which is the rooms which are closed on Sundays?
Ballroom 20.
20 and Indigo?
Yeah, it's not
so.
Yeah, so it is pretty much. Yeah, so it's just going to be Hall H. So go on then, Jesse.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely go for Supernatural. I'm a big fan of that show.
Yeah.
I'd love to see The Strain, but I'm going to have to sit through The Following and Sons of Anarchy, and those are two shows that I neither watch nor care about. So those
I watched The Following. I love The Following.
Sons of Anarchy.
I gave up after the pilot on The Following. I'm sorry.
You should have stuck around.
I probably should have, but enough about me.
He's going to say the same thing about Hannibal to me. I mean, look, for real.
No, Hannibal's awesome though. I mean, you have no idea. But I will stay for The Strain because it just looks like it's going to be a really good show, and I think they're going to show an unaired episode.
Yeah, it's 2 hours long, that panel.
Yeah, so that will be something to check out.
To be honest with you, just a tip from previous years, we never missed the Sons of Anarchy panel, and it's the one right before it, and last year you could walk in to the Sons of Anarchy panel because so many people are already cutting out of town. So.
Right. I'd always left before that panel started, so I never stuck around for one.
Jesse, on the listing, does it say who's coming for The Strain?
It did, I believe.
I've got it in front of me.
I know Sean Astin is going to be on that panel.
Guillermo del Toro, Carlton Hughes, Sean Astin, and I don't recognize any other names.
Is Jamie Hector on there?
Jamie? Nope.
Ooh.
Well, who is the older gentleman that played Filch in Harry Potter? His name is eluding me right now.
Here's the other cast members they noticed.
Walder Frey.
They say Corey Stoll, David Bradley, Mia Meister.
Bradley.
Is that it?
David Bradley would be there.
Yeah, I want to see that one as well.
Cool.
Thanks for the tip about Hall H clearing out, because I'd love to see the Strain also.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yeah, I think that's
really
probably
cool.
the one you can walk into this year.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
I love being able to walk into Hall H.
It's a crazy feeling. It doesn't happen too often.
Don't judge me, but I walked into Hall H when they had the Twilight panel about 2 years ago. Well, I was wanting to go to the panel afterwards, and I thought I was going to be queuing up with those which couldn't get in, and it ended up being like 300 housewives at the front of the hall, all fangirling over Patterson and his funky hair. At which point I then went back to the back 3 rows, dialed up Game of Thrones on the iPad, and then got kicked out. Rebel.
Yeah.
There we go. No, you're right. Walking. I mean, I think you're going to be able to walk in to most panels on the Thursday and the Sunday. So.
I don't know about Thursday.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's going to be a clear out certainly for Visionaries. While it's I personally think it's a great panel. There seems to be a lot of there's a number of them where it doesn't quite work. So. Anyway.
It'll depend on who they announce too.
This is very true. Then again, what was the one I was going to talk about Thursday? And I was going to talk about Hall H, and it was going to be about Paramount, because Paramount, while it's saying to be announced, and I know that we kind of talked about the films that we're thinking about. I mean, there's several projects in there which I think it just would fill that room. So, you're okay. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I was looking down the list, and Paramount movies coming up are, of course, Hercules opens that weekend, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Paranormal Activity 5, Interstellar, and Terminator next year.
Indeed.
Comic-Con.
And most importantly, of course, Hot Tub Time Machine 2, which frankly, if you're not queuing up by Tuesday night, you're not getting in. It's a tough call, I know. Okay, well, anything else on the Sunday which kind of jumped out, because I'm just getting nothing but yawn, and
the one panel that I always go to every year, and other people may want to, is the Comic-Con Talkback panel. That's going to be at 3:30 in room 23 ABC, and you really get to hear what other fans are griping about. So that's I hate to say it that way. Maybe that's not politically correct, but you know, it's interesting to hear what other people's perceptions of what Comic-Con is doing.
Yeah.
So
I love that panel when you have that line of people snaking all the way down the seats, and
yes.
Every single question starts with, "I've been coming to Comic-Con for years. I'm an absolutely huge fan, and I love everything you do. But ... and which launches into this diatribe. It's just yeah, you do end up pulling your hair out, which is how this happened. I had a full head of hair. I had Jessie hair before I went to that panel
2 years ago.
I will admit that I do get up and speak, but I really try and keep my comments to bullet points and 2 or 3 sentences, and not belabor points to the point of boredom. So, but it does snake out, and it is interesting if you have a couple minutes at the end of the day.
I've wanted to go for several years, certainly last year and the year before, but life interrupted and all that. So it's something I wanted to.
I found a cute one for Sunday.
Go for it.
Sunday in room 6A, Sesame Street and Pop Culture, and they're going to be talking about, and Chris Hardwick is going to be the moderator for it. So they're going to have some of the actors there, Grover, Burt, Murray, Cookie Monster, and so they're going to be talking about 45 years of spoofs on Sesame Street. I think they do some cute stuff on there with all the celebrities and stuff.
I think that would be an interesting panel as well to talk about how Sesame Street has pretty much created its own subgenre of memes, especially with the viral videos that just come out of Sesame Street. They're kind of carving out their own little corner of the internet. I think that'd be interesting. That would be interesting. We've got a question from Violet from GB Reviews. What are your opinions on whether it will be necessary to camp out on Saturday night for Sunday in Hall H? Supernatural has some pretty rabid fans, but other than that, seems rather light without Doctor Who and Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that one's going to be very different this year because every year before we walk through the line and there's like 100 Casses and 700 Doctors. So I don't know about that one. The Supernatural fandom is pretty big.
Well, if that's the case, I'm hoping I can maybe walk into Hall H after Supernatural.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Everybody's going to see Supernatural, and since it's first, then everybody's going to leave after, hopefully.
Yeah. There's a panel at 12, Overwatch, a discussion with Mark Guggenheim. He's one of the heads for the show Arrow, and he's also done Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. It's like a Q&A with him.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one too. That looked interesting. I love that kind of panel. So.
Yeah, it's in room 25 ABC at 12.
Yeah.
I need to give our friend Chris Chen a shout out because he's been worrying his head off for the past 3 days that there's not been any Jim Lee drawing panel announced. And what do we have on at 3 o'clock on room 2 on Sunday? How to Draw with Jim Lee.
Is it going to be? Is it going to be the last one? I think it will be. I think it's the last one in that room.
I think so. Yeah.
In which case, if I'm going to be staffing that room, I'm going to have the delightful honor of trying to kick Jim Lee off stage again. My God Almighty, that is so much.
I've been promising Chris I'm going to go to that panel with him, so I think I'm going to forfeit the strain so I can go to that with Chris. So you'll probably be seeing me in that room too.
That room, that panel is amazing. I know that I do kind of belabor this point, and I do know that I do hammer on about how to for artists, Sally. But I love that room. I love the panels they put on there. It's been an honor to volunteer staff that room. That panel, the Jim Lee panel, it's amazing. I mean, I'm certain that we all know what Jim Lee can do. I mean, it's the man's as an artist is amazing. But watching him work is just something else because he just comes up with some shapes, some pencils, some thick lines, whatever, and you're just wondering where the hell is this going to go? What is going? And then he'll just do something. He'll do a Jim Lee magic thing with like a highlighter or a pencil or something. And next thing you know, you're looking at a fully formed work of absolute bona fide top shelf art, and you just go, "How the hell did he do that? What the hell?" I blinked twice, and that suddenly became Wonder Woman. What the holy hell just happened? It's a brilliant panel. But the Jim Lee fans do come out of the woodwork, and like I say, when it comes to, okay, we have 10 minutes to go, ladies and gentlemen, and he's still just taking the pens, he's just starting a new sketch, and you think, you get. Really? Dude, I've got the keys. I've got to close this room down. You're going to start a new one. Oh, thanks. Oh, man. But you can't get mad at the guy because it's Jim Lee. So, no, I'll definitely push that one as well. Excellent panel.
Well, Tony from Crazy for Comic-Con is having a panel, Battle of Multicultural Heroes. It's at 4. in room 28DE
On Sunday?
on Sunday.
That'd be cool. That would be cool. He always puts on. It's always a good panel. I've seen the video of it, and it's always a good panel. Yeah, and I think it's an important panel as well. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let's double back. So I think we're basically saying Sunday is going to be for the fandoms, and it's certainly not. I mean, there's a couple of headliners there, but there's nothing that's really kind of blowing. There's no Doctor Who this year. Let's put it that way. Shall we just? There's no kind of like fireworks, if you know what I mean. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the day which really does have the fireworks. And that's Saturday. And that's Hall H. Considering that the Disney panel, the Marvel panel, get it right, the Marvel panel is listed as, is it an hour or an hour and a half?
And then there's a gap. Then there's a gap.
And then there's a gap.
Yeah.
For an hour and a half. I've been in contact with, I've had one or two people say, can you please email David Glanzer? Yes, I have. Listen, if I know that I don't want to kind of like burn up any of my bridges or any chances, but yes, I emailed David Glanzer on this one. I've had no response. We have no idea. No response. Yeah. So we have no idea if there's a room clear. We don't know if there's a room clear, whether you have to sit there for an hour and a half between that panel and the WBDC panel. We don't know if it's going to go for an hour or if it's going to go longer. So I know we've got a number of people who have been asking about the Saturday, and I've been having people text me and people tweet me saying, so what the hell's going on? We don't know.
One thing I would like just to add from entertainment personnel perspective is that it really is nice to put in any schedule a bit of buffer time. So if your panels are running over, you can just suck it into that. So say the panel before the WB panel doesn't stop right at 6:30, they've got that whole hour and a half. So it may just be something as simple as a planned buffer. Sure. I know that's not the conspiracy theory that everybody would love to hear, but...
Sure. Well, then again, there's the other conspiracy theory, which is, just out of curiosity, how long in the past has the Kevin Smith panel gone for?
Is that an hour?
Is that an hour? That's interesting that there's this gap of an hour.
Well, I think Kevin Smith is on Thursday now.
He is. Well, he's there for his film.
Or Friday, I'm sorry.
Friday. And he's there for his film, and he's showing a trailer for it as well. And is it Tusk?
Tusk.
Musk of Tusk. Yeah. I'm curious as to. But can you imagine an hour and a half in Hall H with nothing showing?
It boggles the mind.
That's the long dark tea time of the soul right there. Good Lord. Okay. We've got a couple of panels coming in, a couple of comments coming in from Q&A. We did ask for SDCC surgery, but I think most people at this point, and certainly those who are watching this, they kind of got everything kind of nailed down, as it were. So it's understandable. So we've got Violet turning around saying, because she couldn't join us, suggesting an interesting panel is 6 BCF on Sunday. It's Dynamite 10th anniversary with Quentin Tarantino.
Oh.
Yeah, I did see that one, yeah.
I didn't spot that one. So that's, wow, okay. Because the last time he came was for Django, I believe, and he's always entertaining. That's because he's nuts. The man is a motor mouth, and he's a lunatic, and I love him to death. So excellent. That's a great panel. Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question about the Hall H on Saturday. So, given that I don't want to camp out and for all of the panels beforehand, What do you think the possibility is that after the Marvel panel, I'll be able to get in to see the Warner Brothers television panels?
This is all down now to finding out if there's a room clear.
Right.
It's simple as that. If there's a room clear, then the people who are going to get into that queue or going to get into that panel are the ones that are queuing up outside just for the WBDC.
But if there's no room clear?
If there's no room clear, then
I think people are going to stay over? I think is my question.
I think a large population. I think a large amount will.
Well, you have to think too about off-site events, because the Warner Brothers doesn't start till 8. How many people have bought tickets for other things?
True.
And they need
Like
to
the
leave
Thrilling Adventure Hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to do a podcast.
No, you're right. Okay. I mean, that's something that we haven't talked about, and then again, I don't think we've had to. I think anyone who's seen the off-site events this year, it's just so strong.
Yes.
It's just so much to see. I mean, when they've turned around and they're doing something with the airport, and they're putting Comic-Con branding in there as well, then you know that Comic-Con is taking over the city, literally. Just in this thing, it's insane. So great! I love insanity. I love more the merrier. More the merrier. Bring it on. Dan Berry has turned around and made a comment about Daniel Radcliffe. The movie Radcliffe is. Oh no, sorry, tell a lie. This is something else completely. I'll shut up now. The movie Radcliffe is in. It's called Horns and was written by Joe Hill, who wrote Lock and Key. Radcliffe took over after Shia, I'm Not Famous, LaBeouf dropped out. Oh no, sorry, no, get it right. So it's the movie Radcliffe is in. Sorry, get it right. It's called Horns. Yeah. Shia, I'm Not Famous, LaBeouf. That's a bit harsh. He's in some big films coming up in the next certainly in the next 12 months.
It's reference to the bag thing he had on his head.
True. Still, I mean, no, but a lot of people have been turning around and saying that his time is up and he's done and dusted. But isn't he in a film with George Clooney? Oh no, with Brad Pitt. I'm just going to call it the Tank movie because it's about that. I'm certain the marketing department of whichever film this is written. Oh, the Tank movie.
This is all well and good, him being in this Tank movie with Brad Pitt and everything. Remember, he was in an Indiana Jones movie, but that was still rubbish as well. I mean, this guy, he could be in any film. He could be in Ocean's 13. He will still be rubbish. He's a terrible actor. So don't be swayed by the fact he's in with Brad Pitt.
Okay.
The Tank movie.
I'm loving the fact that nobody's said the T word yet either. So that's that's out now. The thing is that's out in the US now. Who's seen Transformers? Okay, let me rephrase that question. Who's going to admit to have seen Transformers?
I have not seen it. No.
Everyone's shaking their head. You know what? I have faith in humanity when the 8 people I've got as guests, or 7 people I've got as guests, have not seen Transformers. Thank God for that. So where the hell has it made 300 million, for God's sake? Where are these people coming from?
8-year-olds.
8-year-olds.
And they're
and people with 8-year-old heads.
Well, and maybe some that are just nostalgia. They just want to see bots just, live on screen. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I've been reading the reviews and. Yeah, I think it came up to the expectations I was putting on it. The Dan Berry has reminded us the Shia and Brad Pitt movie is Fury.
Yep.
I checked the trailer out for it actually, if you can. It looks like a really cool film. So yeah, and Carlos jumped in on that one as well. Yeah, Fury, if you want to check that out. Okay. I think we're pretty much covered everything. I think we'll just go very quickly down the line and just go down a couple of questions. This is from Lisa Brinker. Hello, Lisa. Cannot make it for this year's Comic-Con. I've never been, but I think you have to all convince me to either really want to go or be terrified of never being able to decide which panels to actually attend with all the awesome overlaps. You are. I think the hashtag that I started rocking out about 3 weeks ago was "Go hard or go home." It's the way it is. You just jump in. I think that's the if you are.
Comic-Con's only once a year. You just gotta do it.
It is, and
it's worth it.
It is worth it, absolutely. And not only that, but come Sunday, you can always just go out and get drunk. So.
I thought that was every night. Sorry.
Well, that would be if you can pull off getting drunk every night and do Comic-Con.
No, I hardly drink anyway. I just thought that was fun.
I salute you if you can pull that off. Congratulations. Constitution of a horse. Good lord. What else have we got here? Carlo has put the comment about the Talkback panel, Alyssa. Talkback panel equals CCI Facebook page live. Yeah, I think that's about right. Apparently there are 2 panels for Jim Lee on Sunday at 11:15. I'm going to have to check if that's room 2 as well. I don't think it is. But room 2. He will be closing room 2. So it's a case of if you are a Jim Lee Jim Lee fan, there's plenty of Jim Lee out there for you.
And Christian would absolutely love one of his sketches.
I wouldn't mind either. So
spread the word.
There we go. Right, I think with half past 7 here in the UK, 2 hours down. I think an hour and a half talking about Comic-Con. I think that's good enough for us. Listen, thank you very much indeed to all of my guests today. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I know that this weekend is the one that's particularly rough because we have got all the schedules coming in, and it is a case of taking up all of our time trying to decipher what panels to go and see. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll go down the line and ask where we can find people. Tina, where can people find you?
Mainly on Twitter, Sizzlin, SYZZLYN.
I was going to ask you to spell it. I was. Thank you very much indeed, Tina. Natasha, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at WillCat12, WILLCAT12. I'm also at The Nerd Element. I live tweet like too many shows. And you can also find us on our website, thenerdelement.com.
Excellent. Megan, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Where can people find you? And indeed, what's your next post going to be about?
Oh, thank you. You can check out my blog, The Nerdy Girlie, www.thenerdygirlie.com, and also on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, at The Nerdy Girlie. And I'm going to be posting my schedule, what our plans are soon, and what cosplays we're going to do. And then also I'm going to have an Instagram photo hunt for the con, too, which I'm going to be posting next week, too.
So if you are wanting to stalk Megan, that's the post you need to be looking out for, because she'll basically tell you exactly where she is, and then you can run up and hug her from behind without telling her that you're coming and just scare the living crap out of her. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Megan.
Thank you.
Mark, where can people find you, sir?
I'm only on Twitter. I'm at Mark_Searby. Tweeting about films. I will be tweeting this week. I've just finished a post on the history of Comic-Con, all the way from the beginning, all the way up to last year, just like an overview. So I will tweet that when it goes live next week.
Okay, so I can imagine that's not going to be a 2-page post. That's a monster of a subject you're taking on there. Good God. Okay, I look forward to reading that. Jesse, where can people find you and indeed the Nerd Truth?
You can find me on Twitter at The Seventh Candidate, also at Nerd Truth. We're on Facebook and online at thenerdtruth.com.
Okay. And when are we going to be getting another card rise with Jesse?
You know, I've been thinking about that, and I've got you in mind, dude. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Don't tease. Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Jesse. Christopher. Well, number one. We'll be finding you at the Funko stand pretty much on preview night, so that's a given. But where else can people find you?
You can join in a conversation with us at thenerdfu.com. And just a quick shout-out reminder that we've got 2 days left in our Comic-Con Survival Pack giveaway. We've still got 2 of those awesome backpacks to give away. So head over to thenerdfu.com and enter now.
I do. That's one of the first things I do in the morning. It's certainly enter that competition, and yeah, I'd hate to think that there's any propriety of favoritism at all in that. Cough. Anyway, thank you today, Chris, and last but not least, Alyssa. Where can people find you at the moment?
On the forum, friendsofcci.com/forum. That's pretty much where I hang out. I do hang out a little bit on Twitter, but that's just a little. I'm not as much on Twitter. We do long form on the forum.
Okay. I can imagine at the moment it's quite the buzz on the forum at the moment.
Oh, panels, problems, conflicts. How can they do this to me? They booked this in conjunction with that, and it's crazy. How is next week going to work, Leonard? A question for you.
Right, yes. Here we go then. Well, first and foremost, you can find me on Twitter at Englishman SDCC. You can go to anenglishmaninsandiego.com for all the latest posts, and you can find me on various social networks, including Google Plus at google.com/+an Englishman in San Diego, and I will. Sorry, Jesse, keep pushing Google Plus as a platform, because I think it's brilliant, and the moment everyone realizes that Facebook's crap, everyone else will realize it's brilliant too. Yes, next week I fly out of the UK on Tuesday, and I will be landing in San Diego on Tuesday night, which means doing the show next week, we will be having a live from San Diego version of this show. Now, hopefully, I've been talking to a couple of venues where I can actually take part in the Hangout with a nice vantage point of the convention center. It's going to look very beautiful and pretty in the background. It's going to be a very nice hangout, hopefully. We are, at the moment, finalizing our special guests for that, including, hopefully, a nice big special guest to wrap things up. It is our last show of the year before we do a kind of post-con wrap-up thing, but it's certainly the last regular Sunday, so do come and join us. Once again, it's going to be at the same time at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, and 5:30 in the afternoon here in the UK. So yes, there will be a cup of tea. I'm taking this thing will be wrapped up and put in the suitcase. This is coming with me with tea bags. Because Yorkshire tea and tea will be drunk in San Diego next week. So that's the way it's going to be. So yes, there is going to be a cup of tea next Sunday, and admittedly, it's going to be a little bit on the light news side. It's going to be, I suspect, it's going to be a slightly shorter show than certainly the 2 hours that we've done today. But I think that's mostly because we're now into the final push. It's from that point, it's going to be 3 days to go. I'm so grateful for everyone's support and everyone taking part in the Q&A and everyone watching. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. And once again, to my guests, thank you very much indeed. And I'll see you in San Diego in 11 days' time. So yes, we're now we are nearly down to single digits. Well, for Tina we are. We're down to single digits for Tina. Thank you very much indeed for your time today, and we'll see you soon. Take care.